Hello everyone, welcome to Telugu One Academy. Today we will be learning the next session regarding the prevention of money laundering in India and what are the various initiatives which were taken around the world and which India has adopted to prevent this money laundering in India and across the world. So the first global mechanism to prevent the money laundering comes from the Vienna Convention. Okay, please note this name. Okay, it was the first major initiative in prevention of money laundering held in the year 1988. This convention laid down the groundwork for efforts to combat money laundering by obligating the member states to criminalize laundering and laundering of money from drug trafficking. Please note one important point, that it is obligating on the member countries. Okay, whoever the country which has signed or assigned to the Vienna Convention will become obligate to this convention, that is they need to implement this convention. It promotes the international cooperation in investigation and makes extradition between member states applicable to money laundering, that whoever has done money laundering, then that person can be brought from any nation which he is taking or which he is holding at that time. Okay, for example, if I am committing money laundering in India and have escaped to UK, then Indian enforcement people can come to UK and bring me back to India, or India can request UK to extradite me back to India. Next, the Council of Europe Convention. Okay, this convention was held in 1990, established a common policy on money laundering to facilitate international cooperation regarding investigation, search, seizure and confiscation of proceeds of all types of criminality, particularly serious crimes such as drug offences, drug dealing, terrorist offences and other offences. So even at European Union level, they have formed a convention. This sets out common definition of money laundering and common measures for dealing with money laundering all across the Europe. Next important initiative is by G7 nations, which formed the Financial Action Task Force, which is called FATF. Okay, it was established at G7 Summit of 1989 with the objective to set standard and promote effective implementation of legal, regulatory and operational measures to combat money laundering and terrorist financing and other related threats to the integrity of international financial system. So this was formed by G7 Summit in 1989. Okay, on October 2001, FATF expanded its mandate to incorporate efforts to combat terrorist financing in addition with money laundering. Initially when it started, it was only against money laundering, but in 2001 its mandate expanded to terrorist financing also, to combat terrorist financing. In April 2012, it added efforts to counter the financing of proliferation of weapons of mass destruction. In 2012, we added one more point, that is financing of weapons for mass destruction is also been prohibited, or policies have been provided by Financial Action Task Force. It has developed a series of recommendations that are recognized as international standards for combating money laundering, terrorist financing and also with 2012, that is procurement of weapons of mass destruction, is also to prohibit those things. They also give few recommendations through which a country can frame its own law. They form the basis for coordination response to these threats to integrity of financial system and help ensure a level playing field. Next is Basel Committee's Statement of Principle. In 1988, the Basel Committee of Banking Regulations and Supervision Practices issued Statement of Principle, which aims to encourage banking sector to adopt a common position in order to ensure that banks are not used to hide or launder funds. You know this Basel Committee, my friends, in economy also will study Basel norms, Basel 1, Basel 2, Basel 3 norms. Accordingly, the Basel Committee in 1988 said that these banks, please listen to us, that this banking system should never be utilized for money laundering purpose, because it is the threat for banking system itself they have said. Even with that, United Nations Global Program Against Anti-Money Laundering was also launched. So under this, you see other initiatives include like International Money Laundering Information Network. Please remember this point. International Money Laundering. Yeah, United Nations Global Program Against Money Laundering. So, Global Program Against Money Laundering was established in the year 1997 with a view to increase effective international action and cooperation to combat money laundering by using comprehensive technical cooperation services offered by governments. Okay, so this United Nations body have been providing technical support to various governments to counter money laundering. So, under this basic three conventions are there. Those have been helping to counter money laundering. Those three important conventions of United Nations are International Convention on for Suppression of Financing of Terrorism 1999, United Nations Convention Against Transnational Organized Crime 2000, and United Nations Convention Against Corruption. So these three conventions have been within the part of Global Program Against Money Laundering. So by these three conventions and such a global program where technical support was provided for various countries, we tried to eradicate money laundering, okay, control money laundering also you can say. So other initiatives include International Money Laundering Information Network. International Money Laundering Information Network. So is an internet based networks assisting government, organizations and individuals to fight against money laundering. It has been administered by, it is under the administrative control of United Nations Office of Drugs and Crime. Okay, United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime. It provides the international database called Anti-Money Laundering International Database that analyzes jurisdictional nations anti-money laundering legislatures. Okay, so this body, what is that, my friend? Anti-Money Laundering International Database, it provides this data. Using that data, what we can understand, what are the various money laundering laws in different countries and how come they are able to control the money laundering in their countries also is analyzed. Next is Wolfsburg AML Principles. AML is nothing but anti-money laundering principles. So this Wolfsburg has been an what you can say, it's an NGO, I can say it's a group of people who have committed that they are providing good standard principles against money laundering, and they have, see, Wolfsburg principles are non-binding set of best practice guidelines governing the establishment and maintenance of relationship between private bankers and crimes. Okay, this majorly related to financial system or financial intermediaries. Okay, Transparency International, a Berlin NGO, in collaboration with 11 international private banks under the expert participation of Stanley Morris and Professor Mark Pinnett, came out with these principles so that the money laundering principles will be followed by all these private entities and banks, which can eradicate or predict money laundering and stop at its source. Next is Egmont Group. As I told you, Egmont Group is a group of financial intelligence units, and we have also established Financial Intelligence Unit India in the year 2004 under Prevention of Money Laundering Act within the Ministry of Finance, Department of Revenue. That also I have said you. And apart from that, this Egmont Group is a group of all such financial intelligence units. And you see, India became the member of this Egmont Group in May 2007. This you have to note down. So what this Egmont Group does is, all these financial intelligence unit within the Egmont Group share their intelligent inputs so that they can tackle the money laundering. Okay. Next, Asia Pacific Group on Money Laundering. So Asia Pacific Group is also an international level group whose proceedings are not binding on any other person. But you see, it has many other members, including international agencies, UN bodies, and even member countries who are in tandem working to control the money laundering and even eradicate it. See, Asia Pacific Group of Money Laundering is an international organization. At present, to this day, it contains around 41 member countries and jurisdictions and number of other international regional observers such as United Nations, IMF and World Bank. Okay, India became the member to this Asia Pacific group, my friends, in the year 1998. Part of the commitment includes implementing the measures against terrorists listed by United Nations in 1267 convention. That is, even this body has been helping United Nations to combat money laundering by using its conventions as a source. Okay, its members are always committed, effectively implements the FATF's international standards and anti-money laundering standards, even exclusively the FATF standards of 40 plus 9 recommendations which are given by FATF long back. And Eurasian Group project, in Eurasian Group project is a FATF style regional body, as Asia Pacific group on money laundering is a regional body. Similarly, on the lines of FATF, Europe also formed a group, that is the Eurasian Group. Okay, this is Europe and Asian group of leaders who have been working for combating money laundering. It is the world's leading global political risk research consulting firm. Not more is needed regarding this. Next is International Organization on Securities Commissions, which deals with securities all over the world, so that this money laundering money has not come into the system of securities or shares or market trading. Next is IMF. IMF have been giving guidelines in various situations to combat money laundering. Okay, so comply with the international standards to thwart the terrorist financing, and even United Nations Office for Drugs and Crime. Okay, it has been proactively participating and looking into the topic of money laundering, because see, United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime has also been looking through organized crime, as money laundering is a part of this whole organized crime structure. So few recommendations are also being given by that body, that is UN Office on Drugs and Crime. Apart from that, India has made various bilateral agreements on extradition, on even sharing the data regarding money laundering across the borders. It has signed agreements with countries like Mauritius, UK, okay, let's see, Australia, Canada, USA, UK, Mauritius, Philippines, Berlin, Bermuda, Morocco. Okay, these are all the famous countries which you can note. The MOUs are to facilitate exchange of intelligence between the two countries for the purpose of cooperation, gathering, develop and analyze information concerning financial transaction suspected of being related to money laundering and terror financing. So when done with all these institutions, Egmont Groups, Asia Pacific Group, all these various institutions, my friends, one need to know, even after such a infrastructure, such a support system, such laws at national and international level, why come one is not able to prevent the money laundering? Because my friend, as the society evolves, as the law evolves, money laundering has also evolved. That's why money laundering is very fast and dynamic in nature. You see, it has shifted from traditional ways into the cryptocurrency, which is very hard to regulate. So that's why fast-paced change in technology, that is including cyber technologies, to create problems, and lack of awareness about its seriousness. Various countries, especially the safe havens, which are present in the Caribbean region of the Middle American region. Recently you see El Salvador is a country which has legitimized or which has made Bitcoin as a legal tender money, which has made Bitcoin as a legal tender. Imagine if I just divert all my money, which is black money, as a Bitcoin, I can go to El Salvador, I can withdraw or I can sell my Bitcoin where it is very legal, and I can take El Salvador currency and I can easily convert into US dollar, Europe or any other currency, because El Salvador has Bitcoin as a legal, which they can agree to exchange with their own home currency. Okay, that is very easy for me. So in such a way, lack of awareness about its seriousness, that country people have no awareness about that. Failure of banks to effectively implement KYC norms. A number of black market channels sell imported smuggled goods and they deal in cash transaction to avoid custom duties, thus generating black money. Most of the transactions, my friend, what they do is they do everything in cash. And even a loophole presents in multiple agencies which deal with this money laundering issue. You see, Enforcement Directorate deals with this issue. Sometimes even Narcotics Control Bureau gets the data regarding money laundering and funding of narcotic drugs. State police system has this data. So there is no coordination among these intelligence agencies to combat the money laundering all over India. So one thing we have to include is that we have to improve this coordination, and NAT grid has to be expanded. Okay, not just for combating terrorism, even such money laundering activities cause economic loss, social loss, political variations. Even this money laundered money has been input as to the terrorist financing. Next, many tax haven countries exist which allow creation of anonymous accounts with strict financial secrecy laws prohibiting disclosure of financial information to tax authorities. As you see in Switzerland, most of the black money of India, when India gave a white paper on black money, white paper on black money in the year 2015, almost $2 billion has been of Indian people have been parked into the Switzerland. It is one just example. I have even told you the example of El Salvador. Imagine how much of black money could have been parked into the El Salvador. And very recently, my friend, El Salvador has proposed to establish a Bitcoin city by using or selling Bitcoin bonds of value $1 billion. See how much of black money could have been existing there. So the provision of financial confidentiality in other countries which are unwilling to compromise with this confidentiality, that is, these countries will not share their data, who all have parked their money, what is the transaction going on, they never share with the intelligence agencies in India. So that's why we are facing hardships in eradicating or suppressing the money laundering. So how to eradicate money launder? So first thing, we have to make all banks and banking system to follow the KYC norms. Okay, KYC norms very strictly. Okay, bankers also a vital role. Without their involvement, the operation cannot be successful. Okay, the global nature of money laundering requires an international law and enforcement cooperation to effectively examine and accuse those who initiate these complex crime organization. That is, there should be international cooperation, more and more cooperation. There should be an international convention at least signed by 100 countries where you can easily solve money laundering. Money laundering must be combated mainly by penal ways and within the framework of international cooperation among judicial and law enforcement agencies. That is, we need more stringent laws. There is need to draw a line between financial confidentiality rules in various financial institutions and these institutions becoming money laundering havens. That is, which money or which data should not be disclosed or which data should be disclosed, that should be very precisely mentioned in their laws. Apart from that, to effective anti-money laundering measures, there need to be a proper coordination between center and states, because basically any money laundering starts from a base, that is a state. The FATF recommendations set out by comprehensive and consistent framework of measures which countries should implement in order to combat money laundering. That is, we have to try to implement all the 40+9 recommendations of Financial Action Task Force. Recently, you might have seen that Pakistan has been consistently put under the grey list of Financial Action Task Force. Okay, so what is this grey list, my friends? Grey list is nothing but countries which are not following most of the 40+9 recommendations. They will be put into the grey list and they will be watched such a way that most of the countries will not try to invest in these territories because they are grey list. That means most of the terrorist activity and most of the funding which for terrorist groups and more money laundering is happening in that territory. So it is very true to say that no other private company want to invest in that territory because it will lose its property there. Combating money laundering, proliferation of weapons, terrorism, financing, all recommendations which are given by Financial Action Task Force should be followed and implemented. Some of the recommendations which include given by Financial Action Task Force are need to be mentioned. Please note them. Identify risk and develop policies and domestic coordination. Start it from domestic level. That is, cooperate with state and center. That should be there. Countries should criminalize money laundering on the basis of Vienna Convention and Palermo Convention. Okay, these two conventions should be followed and countries should criminalize it. Countries should apply the crime of money laundering to all serious offences with a view to include widest range of predicted offences. That is, the definition of money laundering should be very wide. Countries should implement target financial sanction regimes to comply with United Nations Security Council resolutions relating to prevention, suppression of terrorism and terrorist financing. Okay, we have to be in coordination with United Nations conventions, that is United Nations Convention against corruption, United Nations Convention to combat organized crime. Okay, all these conventions should be signed by these countries. Countries should review the adequacy of laws and regulations and relate to non-profit organizations which the country has identified has been vulnerable to terrorist financing abuses. Okay, it has to revise its acts. Every time it should need to look into NPOs and all that action need to be taken. Apply preventive measures for financial sectors and other designated sectors. That is, every transaction which is more than 1 crore should be reported. Okay, any what you say peculiar transaction, that money is coming from various accounts in small numbers to a particular account, such actions need to be immediately set to the enforcement agencies. Countries should ensure that financial institutions secrecy laws do not inhibit the implementation of FATF. That is, all the transactions should not be closed, that they need to make such a laws that they need to share certain information relating financial transaction which could help in solving money laundering issues. Financial institutions should require to maintain for at least 5 years all necessary records on transactions, both domestic and international, to enable them to comply swiftly informed requests from competent authorities. That is, never delete the data for at least 5 years so that you can solve money laundering. Establish powers and responsibilities to competent authorities and other institutions. Give them enhanced power. Okay, enhance transparency and availability of beneficial ownership information and legal provisional arrangements. Facilitate international cooperation. Okay, so by all these recommendations which are given by Financial Action Task Force, my friends, if they are implemented to an optimal level, I see money laundering, there is a fact I need to say, money laundering can never be killed. It will always exist, but it can be controlled and it can be exited from the Indian territory or Indian homeland by following these recommendations and implementing the laws more stringently. Okay, unless or until corruption is dead, the money laundering will not die. When corruption is obviously not going to die in the near future, then money laundering will also never die. It is a very vicious cycle which rises and comes back each and time in its history. So as I told you, I will also tell about the P notes issue which is regarding the money laundering. You know, P notes are nothing but these are issued at foreign countries. These are some sort of shares which are issued at foreign territories by FIIs. Okay, I'll also tell more detail. You see here, participatory notes are instruments used by foreign investors. Foreign institutional investors are the people who have their branches in foreign country, who make the people in that foreign country to invest in Indian shares. Okay, and you see only this institution, that is financial investment, okay, foreign investment foreign investor. Okay, foreign investor will only have to register with SEBI, and not the person who is buying these P notes have to register with SEBI in that time. So what happened? All this black money which goes out of India, it goes into these P notes, and these P notes they will by buying more and more P notes, they will make this bad money into a clean money. So foreign institutional investor not registered with SEBI to invest in Indian securities. Okay, any person who is not registered with SEBI, he will buy from foreign institutional investors who have been registered with SEBI. They are issued overseas against underlying Indian securities like shares. P notes and money laundering. You see, P notes hides the identity of investors. According to the white paper on black money in 2012, prepared by the central government, considerable proportion of P notes are used by wealthy individuals who use it as a mechanism to channelize black money kept in foreign countries to India. So special investigation teams on black money also recommended phasing out of P notes. People said you need to remove these P notes because we don't know who is the customer buying them. So he can easily convert the black money into white money. In addition, SEBI has no jurisdiction over P notes trading. Although foreign institutional investors must register with SEBI, the P notes trading among FIIs are not registered, leading to concern that P notes are being used for money laundering. So SEBI has taken various measures regarding these P notes. They have set the foreign institutional investors that whoever you are selling these P notes, you have to note down their KYC norms. Okay, when you note down their KYC norms, then they cannot use black money easily. If they are using black money, we can grab that person very easily. SEBI barred the issuance for speculative purpose from checking and misuse of channelizing black money. So P notes can be issued only for the purpose of hedging. Okay, hedge funding only they can involve with respect to equity shares held. SEBI tightened P notes norm by deciding to levy fee of $1,000 for each instrument. That is, they increase the spectrum of P notes. You cannot introduce small P notes. It has increased the know your customer norms for sure. It also issued curbs on transferability and prescribed more stringent reporting of P notes issuer and holders. That is, if one person buys this P note, he can't transfer it easily now. Okay, previously it was easily transferable. It has also decided to relax entry norms for foreign portfolio investors willing to invest directly in Indian market rather than through P notes. So it eased the foreign portfolio investments procedure. Now they can easily invest now. It also mandate issuer to follow Indian anti-money laundering laws instead of norms prevalent in jurisdiction of end beneficial user. That is, instead of that person is following his own country's money laundering laws, he should follow the money laundering laws of India by signing an agreement. If that person is involved in money laundering, then he can be grabbed from his territory and brought back into India for prosecution under Prevention of Money Laundering Act. So my friends, this is the end of the class. I hope you understood everything about money laundering. If you haven't understood what I have been explaining you, I am really sorry for that. But you can also understand if you are listening to my class very slowly and keenly, because I might be fast. That's why I have provided you an elaborate slides on each and every topic. Please try to keep updating yourself with current affairs. Internal security is very dynamic, but 90% of your questions will come only from the static part. Rest of the marks what you want to get will be based on your current affairs knowledge on internal security. I hope you understood my class, and thank you for watching my video. This is Nikhil from Telugu One Academy. Thank you.